Today we're going to talk about putting your money where your mouth is. There's so many of these little athletes out here making millions of dollars a year, and any of them putting their money where their mouth is. They want to sit down for the national anthem, but what are they doing to be the change they want to see? I'm sitting here with Sweets. Sweets is my special guest today. Sweets Treats is a legend in Mobile, Alabama. She got sweets from popcorn to candied apples. I'm going to get her to make some caramel apples because I'm from the country south of Georgia, northwest Georgia actually, and we used to like them caramel candy apples. That's what Mama made all the time. You could chew. I guess we talked too much as kids. She wanted us to do a lot of chewing, so she put that caramel on those candied apples, and you chew them for 30 minutes at each bite. But Sweet got pralines. Sweet got your fudge. Sweet has peanut butter brittle, the best brittle you ever did taste. Sweet's Treats. Have you biting your fingers.
H&H Financial Services in Mobile has over 20 years experience in accounting, bookkeeping, appraisals, real estate, and year-round tax preparations. Give them a call today at 251-438-1620 or visit them at 1560 St. Stephen's Road in Mobile. Let your money grow in our care at H&H Financial Services.
Accident, hurt, you don't know what to do or who to call? Car insurance or not, we got you. No money, no problem. We got you. We get paid by the car insurance. Don't delay, they got you. Call me, Dr. James Gordon, DC, at 476-PAIN. We got you. That's 476-PAIN. The choice is yours.
1480 WERM. It's 12 noon. That means it's that time again on a Wednesday. Time for Conversation with Dr. Henry Haseeb. Heard here every Wednesday from 12 noon until 1 p.m.
All right, it's great to be here on this beautiful Wednesday day. Another day, as they say, that the Lord has made.
Because a lot of people don't know from which they come. I think a lot of people don't realize the struggles that were made, regardless of the race of people. The working class people had a long road to hoe, and it was an uphill battle many times. Remember, my father started as a janitor, had to go to night school to become an electrician, and then he got his family doing pretty good with the strong unions. He worked at the paper mills, making about $40 an hour back in the early 80s or late 70s to early 80s from being a janitor. And the problem we have, like NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, that was signed in by a Democratic president who's supposed to be looking out for the unions or looking out for the jobs. So that lets you know big business gets involved, and we can't compare. We can't just put our eggs in one basket and say we elected this guy, this girl to serve us, and they're going to be the best in the world. We got to stay on top of these elected officials and make sure that they're doing things for the community. Because the North American Free Trade Agreement is a death blow to unions. It made all the jobs, a lot of jobs move down to Mexico and elsewhere, and now they bring the products back to us in America and sell them for the same price they sold them to us. And when they start new companies here now in Alabama, for sure, from Hyundai plant down to ThyssenKrupp, down to Airbus, the pay is nowhere near what the pay was in the 80s, in the early 80s. We're making less money today at these plants than we made in the early 80s.
But see,
we got to start paying attention.
The people with the money is in control.
They're not in control. They buy politicians to run, and we vote them for them because we're low information. We don't worry about what Sweet's going to do. Sweet's to say some tagline, some sweet tagline, and we buy into that tagline and we vote for them. They know, the people with money know that Sweet and James loves a tagline. So they'll come up with a tagline that makes it sound so sexy, and we vote for that person because the tagline sounds good or because the person looks good. But we won't vote for the person who's going to serve us good because we're not paying attention. We're not researching, Sweet. Those cell phones now is more power in that cell phone than the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah, and
every year our parents bought that little edition. Once you bought a set, that was a major purchase for a family back then, black or white, working class family. Encyclopedia Britannica cost $500 to $1,000. You buy that little book set. All those were 26 to 30 volumes, and every year they come out with the the next year after. It was like if you bought the system in 1978,
next year
it'd be 1979 edition. You didn't buy a whole new set. You bought the 1979 add-on to go with the new stuff that came out in 1979 and 1980. Nowadays, that cell phone has 100 times the information as the Encyclopedia Britannica ever thought about having.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. This encyclopedia dead.
They don't need it because you got all the information there, but we refuse to read it. They come out with a new cell phone every year, and people buy them, but they're not even using their old cell phone. They don't research on that cell phone. If I come out with a line that says, vote for James and make you a happy pappy, people fall for that line, they vote. They ain't worried about what James gonna do. He's gonna be happy. I'm voting for the happy pappy man.
That phone have messed us up. This cell phone.
That phone that messes us up. We learn the phone that messes up. It's that phone is an information as a treasure chest.
That phone faster than the TV.
That phone faster than the computer we got on the desk. It is
It's faster than that TV.
It
So,
is.
what they said on the TV about Vanna Sester, you know she be on fire.
Yes,
She done quit.
Okay.
The phone had got it before the TV could get to it.
Right. It's fast. It's
I don't
fast.
know what they're doing, but
But what we gotta do is start using it to research. we start using our sources. You can still go through the book research or go other ways to find your research, but there's one source that every American has. Every American has a darn cell phone, even from 4-year-old up to 104 years old. But they refuse to use the information from it.
they don't understand it. They don't understand what you're supposed to do about the information.
Ask somebody, sweet. If me and you don't understand, we're gonna ask our camera lady. She a little younger than us, so we gotta ask.
Yeah, but see, I ask. My children get hot with me. My children asking them. I said, yeah, I'm asked. If I don't know something, I'm asked for it. I'm asked.
You gotta ask, sweet. We gotta ask.
I'm asked.
Gotta ask.
I ain't know what that nacho cheese was. And I ran around in the store looking for it. That was yesterday. And I said, come here, young man. You working as security guard? I said, where's the nacho cheese? He said, wait a minute, miss. He took me around the corner there, and it was I done walked by it because it was over in that corner where I thought it should have been on the shelf.
Yes, ma'am.
Until we learn to recognize the truth. Our people, the children don't think black folks strong. They don't think we about nothing. I'm going to tell you just like it is. Because we sit down, we let things go by, we don't talk. When we talk, we talking among ourselves. Where's it going? Look, right there, if I'm on that tree, that's where it's going, up on that tree. It ain't going out.
Well, I think since we're black, we see the black community, but I honestly think it's in all communities. When I go to functions of the Asian communities or to the black communities or the white communities or Indian communities, and you talk to people, everybody has that same conversation. So it's really about sharing the knowledge and making sure the knowledge doesn't stay up under that tree. Because everybody likes to sit up under the tree and congregate about things, and that's what we do as a people. We like to congregate. But we got to share the information. We got to share our knowledge. Like I was doing a show the other day, and I was talking to guys. I had a 70-year-old guy on the show, a 60-year-old guy on the show, and I represent the 50-year-old guys on the show. I say, there's things that happen at 50. At 50, you wake up with mystery pain. At 50, there's certain things that happens that you just don't hear about. When I was 40, no one told me this was going to happen at 50. So when it's 60, there's certain things that happen at 60 that you just don't have that happen at 50 that no one told you. And there's an 80-year-old that says, hey, I don't remember like I used to. Well, that's something nice to know. Maybe I need to start taking that fish oil today because I know at 80, I may start having some memories. Because they didn't tell me that you got to share these things. This knowledge stays right with you when you don't share it. People got to start talking and put that knowledge out there. We've got to start talking, sweet.
See, that's the situation. We got to get an understanding. And they be wondering why the congregation done fell off. You ain't dealing with the people. You're not coming outside the church. We stand up in the church, and you just gonna be preaching to the same crew you got up in there. And you need to be on the hedges and the highway. That's what the Bible says. But we on the hedges on the highway. We ready. That's far as we go. We don't have nothing to do with the people. And the people don't know what's going on when you don't have nothing to do with them. They don't.
So people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right. My nephew, he looked like he was happy because I went up there checking up yesterday.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, like he was. And I stopped at the house, and his mama said, he ain't told me you came around here, Ain't Sweet. Then she asked him, he said, yeah, Ain't Sweet came around there. Yeah, I told him, I said, you get back on this team. I said, you getting back on this team. And the man said, you got to sit out for 3 weeks. 3 games, that's 3 weeks. Well, you got to do what he said. Cause you done got off track here.
Yeah, respect the authority.
And
Yeah,
then,
respect.
and yeah, you got the man. He got a job to do. Now you had a position, but then you squandered it. The man gave him a starting position.
Football player.
Yeah. Instead of him getting out there working hard, he went to playing around. You can't play around. You can't even play around on this job. Because you might play around on some people's job. But if you go to some of these jobs, you ain't going to be playing around. You're going to be playing right on out the door.
And a lot of times people say, well, what is the sports? You know, why do I have to learn this subject matter in college or high school? Or why do I need to play this game in sports? Well, like you said, your nephew that plays football had a starting position, but when he slacked off and didn't do his best in it and was playing around when the coach was trying to give him instructions, coach had to say, you need to sit down a while, son, because you're not paying attention. You're not,
Right.
you're playing around. But that's what happens in the real world. That's what happens on real jobs. When a boss person on a real job sees that you're not doing up to your potential, and they know your potential. You think you're getting over. You think that you know that you can slack off and whatnot. But you're not doing your potential on a real job, you get fired. Or you lose that promotion. And many times that little sporting thing you did, say you're a cheerleader, say you're a volleyball player, a softball player, a football player, a basketball player. These little things in high school, even if you don't make it to the pros, teach you a lot of life lessons in this team sport. And that's why the coaches need to be hard on you. That's why everybody doesn't need to get a trophy at certain level. You can do that for the little leagues to say, hey, we got a participation trophy. But once you get past 3 or 4 or 5 years old, or even 6 years old, at some age you should start rewarding the kids that excel, because that's the way life is. Life doesn't reward everybody equally. It's not the same. That's called communism. We just don't do that. If you did that, if you did reward everybody equally, the way you live today, cut that in half. Because everybody you know will live a lot less comfortable than they're living today if everybody's getting the same thing regardless of what you did or what you made. And you know, we like to think that we can live like we are, and everybody else will raise up to live the same way you are, Sweeten or Camera Lady. But the reality of it is, when you go to Cuba, when you go to Russia, you know, China has some people living in caves. Look it up. It's on that phone. Research the billion people that lives in China. A percentage of them still lives in caves, don't have running water or electricity. We look at Beijing, it's a modern city. It looks just like Atlanta or LA. But all the Chinese don't live like Beijing. China is a communist country. It's a very poor country overall. Very rich in some areas, but very poor in some areas. We have a lot of poor people. And then look, another thing we need to look at, Sweet. We pick up these little gadgets we see at the store. Cost $1. If the store is selling it for $1, they bought it for a dime, a quarter at the most. They get 3 times the money, up to 10 times the money. Somebody's got to make that product that you're paying $1 for a dime. That's not American labor. Many times you'll see a country, they talk about, you know, you watch Wheel of Fortune. They say, you want a great trip to Antigua. Well, Antigua is one of those small islands you can drive around in about 2 hours. And the best thing on Antigua, they got a Kentucky Fried Chicken, and they got Sandals Resort. And if you're on the Sandals Resort, that one resort area is that one little 20-acre tract, looks like it does in the video of the family of the Wheel of Fortune. But right outside the Sandals Resort, it goes to a third world country. And that's where many of these little resort islands are. It's nothing outside the little area that you get in. The little sterile area that you visit is all prim and proper and perfect. But outside that area, it's like real poor. And you really want to live there, because we live like Americans. We Americans need to take pride in that. You know, I talk about China, I talk about some of these other countries. Cuba is a great place. But Cuba, they got this little communism, socialism, and they make about $30 US a month is what they live on. $30 a month. So can you live on $30 US a month? What could you buy?
Stuff so high here.
Well, what could you buy? Well, they give away the stuff over there. They give you a bag of flour. They give you a bag of sugar. They may give you one chicken. They give you certain stuff that lasts for the month. Could a bag of sugar last you 1 month?
No.
Probably not. Not with your name like Sweet. But so there's no other country that lives like Americans live. There's no other countries with the riches and the wealth that we have. And we shouldn't be apologetic about it. We should be proud that we work so hard to attain the status that we have. We cannot bring the rest of the world up to our living standards. We can take America down to the rest of the world's standards, but you wouldn't want to be there. Before you start criticizing America and the American flag, you need to visit some of these foreign countries. The country of Panama, Jamaica even. You go to Jamaica, you go to some of the little resort areas, and it looks great. Get off the beaten track, but make sure you take a guide, and you might want to take security, because we're getting robbed is not a rarity in these foreign countries who are very, 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 very poor compared to the American standards. Jamaica sounds great, but go off the beaten track. You'll see it's not a rich country for most people. You see the few people who are doing well, and they're always the ones talking. Sweet, it frustrates the heck out of me when I get a rich person say, well, if President Obama gets elected, I'm leaving the country. You're going to leave. You got $100 million in the bank or $10 million in the bank. If President Hillary gets elected, I'm leaving. If President Trump gets elected, I'm leaving. Well, leave. You'd probably be back. Because there's no country better than America. But the working class people are the ones got to deal with this stuff for real. That's the one it affects. If a person got $100 million in the bank, they don't care who's president. It doesn't affect them. It affects us as working class. We've got to pay attention to who we put in office. We've got to pay attention to what they're doing in office so you know why you put them in office.
And then we got to vote. There's so many thousand votes in Pritchard, the 3,000 show.
At least, yeah. You're right. We had an election recently. You got 20,000 residents, about 10 to 12,000 able to vote, and we got like 2,000 or 3,000 that
But
votes
there's
in
more
election
people that I just believe there's more that can vote, just ain't vote.
It is, for sure. It's about 20 or 30% turnout, which is horrible. But the people need to know who they're voting for and why. That's more important than the vote.
But we don't explain nothing to nobody.
But they got the phone. They can look it up. Or talk to the person. I heard somebody say, well, Dr. Gordon said you changed since, say, maybe I haven't changed. I haven't done anything different than I do now. Why don't they talk to me? How dare you be such a coward that you can say something about somebody and not talk to them? I'm accessible. I'm at work every day. 7:30, 9 o'clock, drop in my office. You can see me. I'll make time for you. You may not have a lot of time, but I give you at least 2 minutes. You say what you want to say. Say what's on your mind. I ain't got no problem with that. But don't lie and say something of this and so when you come to the source. And quit believing the lie when you come to the source. Somebody say something about Sweet's treats, talk to Sweet. She's always around. She's probably around 7 days a week. She's more accessible than I am. But you got to talk to the people. Quit listening to foolishness and quit voting for taglines. Pay attention. And our American flag is not to be trampled on. I served proudly in the Navy. I'm an honorably discharged veteran of the United States Navy, and I'm proud of my country. Our country got a lot of problems. Our country has race relations problems. Our country has a few white officers who's afraid of blacks. I think they're literally afraid when they're pulling out their gun when they encounter a black person, and it's easily escalated. And then when a black person does something, a twitch, or a word, or an action, then it easily escalates the situation. We need to be taught how to de-escalate situations. Our officers need to be held to a higher level of expectations. But you can't pay a person $10 to $15 an hour and expect them to have a mind or act like a $20 to $30 an hour person. See, the $20 to $30 an hour person went to take the $20 to $30 an hour job. And then a $10 to $15 an hour person take the $10 to $15 hour job, but you got some $30 an hour person who love the job so much they're going to sacrifice their pay to be that $10 person. That way you're not going to hear a complaint about that person. But that one who's at his top of his game, he can only make $10, and he's at the top of his game, that person may be easier manipulated. They easily are afraid or frightened or easily gets into a situation that they can't get out of. So we got to start paying better for our service people, our teachers, and our police officers, and our fire departments. Our politicians should work for free. Our politician was never meant to be a profession. When you put money in politics, you corrupted it. You should have the lobbyists should pay no money to a politician, not one thin dime. A lobbyist should come here like Sweet and I get together and we lobby each other for our ideas and our support. Sweet comes to me and say, hey Doc, I'm looking for this gadget that stirs itself. You put it in the pot, you push a button and it stirs the item itself. Sweet's not internet savvy. She don't go on the internet and surf the web. But she says that Dr. Gordon, he's always got his computer open. Maybe he's using it occasionally. So she asked the question. I go online in a couple of minutes. We find what she wants. We order it. That's lobbying each other. She didn't pay me a dime. I didn't pay her a dime. We're lobbying each other.
Right.
That's how lobbying should work.
I told him I wanted a thermometer. I told Dr. Jordan I need a thermometer, and he bought it for me. I told him I want a stir. He bought it for me and ain't charged me a dime. So that's what you talk, give back to the community and helping the community. You know, people be talking about, Miss Smith, you stay in Trinity? Yeah, I stay in Trinity Garden and proud of it. Ain't nothing wrong with Trinity Garden, just like anywhere else. Whatever you got, fix it up. Wherever you at.
Trinity Garden.
If you want a swimming pool, wherever you stay, put it in your yard. If you want a garage, put it in your yard. Ain't no such thing bragging on where you stay. You came from where you came from to get where you at. I ain't got no problem with people go. You know, they can go where they want to go. But don't forget where you come from, because you might have to go back there one day.
One of the beautiful things to say, sweetie, I was talking to the news guy, Darren Singleton, once, and he was asking, he's talking about Pritchard. They're always, Mobile has always been, I call it the fat twin. It seemed like it's tried to suck the life out of Pritchard. But I was telling Darwin, I said, Darwin, what you need to do is go to Pritchard, talk to those people who can afford to live anywhere they want to. Sweet's a retired educator. Levanis is a retired educator. They can afford to live anywhere. Dr. Smith's a retired educator. At the time, the late, Bill Clark was living. He's since has passed. They can retire. They can live anywhere they want to live. I said, talk to those people. Ask them why Pritchard. Ask the people in Trinity Garden why Trinity Garden who can afford to live anywhere in the world, and then do your story. Don't go to someone who is renting and mad at the world and bounce from neighborhood to neighborhood. Of course, they're not going to have any loyalty or value system for a community like Trinity Garden. They're not going to have any history about Trinity Garden. But the person who grew up there, who can live anywhere, who chooses to live there, that's the person you talk to. And that's why we talked back on this Kaepernick. We started 2 or 3 shows ago. Kneeling or sitting down, disrespecting our American flag, shame on you. Because, see, you don't know the history of that flag, obviously. That's why you disrespect it. You don't know the history of the military and of the blood that was lost. And that the blood, those red lines on that flag represent the blood lost for our country. You don't recognize that, obviously. And you're disrespecting that. Any athlete or anybody who disrespects our American flag disrespects that. Regardless of your religion. If you want to be an American, which so many people do, be an American and be the change you want to see. If you don't want to be American, there's no gate or no wall blocking you from leaving this country. Anybody can go away from this country if they choose to please. I guarantee you this. You people who got these bleeding hearts and say, hey, let's give everybody this, that, and the other. Many of you are from other countries that say that. I have a buddy who's a Mexican guy, and he come to me and say, hey, I think that we should offer a fine to pay these people who are illegals, and they want to call them undocumented, but they're illegals, and let them get legal. Well, that's fine and dandy, but what you should say is my country of Mexico, my country Guatemala, my country in Africa, say the Ivory Coast, or Ghana, or Nigeria, my country in Europe, say or Germany or France. If I went over there and had a child, would that baby be a citizen of the country? If I went over there and decided to stay, pass my visa, would I be able to get on social services? Would I be able to go to the hospital and get aid? What happens is, when you're in a foreign country and you don't have the visa, your visa expired, you will be detained. And then you'll be kicked out of that country. That's what we Americans need to have dialogue about. There's no such thing as any other country in this world. And that's one thing that the news media has missed, and all these politicians have missed. There's no other country you can go to illegally. When your visa has expired, you're there illegally. If you don't have a visa to get there, you're there illegally. You cannot go to any other country and stay. I went to Italy with a person who didn't have a U.S. citizen passport. They had a visa, and they didn't have the visa to be in Italy, and we were detained in the airport for days with guys with machine guns watching the airport. You can stay in the terminal, but that's all you can stay in the terminal. Then you can go out of the country. You cannot go anywhere in that country. You cannot step foot on the soil. I and a friend from America traveled through Africa. We were in Ghana, from a country called Togo, next to Ghana. Our passports did not have the right visa. We were detained and sent out of the country the next day. They didn't offer us no job, didn't offer us any aid, didn't offer us anything. but a swift kick of the butt out of their country. That's the way it is, people. So America shouldn't be no different at the end of the day. Now, it's not a lot of folks who are here illegally, it's America's fault for not fixing that problem in the 30s. In 33, sweet, when we had the Great Depression, I think it was 39, in the 30s, mid-30s, late 30s, we had the Great Depression. The same subject came up. Do your research, it's in the phone. Do your research. They did the same thing. They kicked out illegal aliens or undocumented workers, they want to call them, but illegals, they kicked them out. The law wasn't changed then. So if the law needs to be to say that you can't have a baby here, they call them anchor babies. And they addressed that problems in the 30s. But then they allowed to stay on the books. So the fact that they're allowed to stay on the books, the folks who are born here
But
left
that
the
was
child
before the 60s.
before the 60s, in the 30s, the Depression, Great Depression.
And you know we ain't
Look it up.
say so.
But what I want to say to the people is, since you had that problem in the 30s, and you failed to fix it as leaders in this country, then anybody who has a baby here should be allowed to stay here, but you need to fix it for the future. You can't, you can't retroact to this. This is something that should have been fixed. This anchor baby problem should have been fixed. We are a nation of immigrants. That's why anchor babies exist. Because everybody that came here in the beginning wasn't from here. So they had to except the American Indians, and they said you have to find a way to create a citizenship. So the way we create citizenship is all these immigrants from London and all these other places, Ireland and what have you, when they come over here, when their children is born here, they're American citizens. That's why anchor baby started. They born the baby here, you're a citizen here. That's when it started, and that's why we're one of the few nations that has even that on the books. However, we're 330 million strong now. Is it time to change the policy? If it is, change the policy going forward. If it's not, leave the policy on the books and leave it alone. I don't have a say in the matter. I just have one vote. But we need to bring it up as it should be and quit lying to people and acting like it's some kind of mystery or some problem. Join us next week for another edition of Rise and Shine.